I love printing. I love printing. I love it. I love printing. Today we have Jeff Ekstein from Willow Print Group. 6 years ago, Jeff was the president of PIA. And were you the first Canadian to be the president of the PIA?
No, I was the fourth, actually.
Fourth?
Yeah.
Okay, so more credit to Canada than I thought.
Yeah, but that's out of 130 plus years.
Oh, so we're not doing so good then.
Well, we're doing okay. Yeah, 4 is not bad. 4 beats 0.
4 beats 0. Okay, so just quickly, tell us a little bit about the Willow Printing Group, what you do, how long you've been around, and if you're going to do anything after the pandemic.
Well, Willow Printing Group is a 68-year-old company. So I used to be able to use the line, conception from the womb is an unbelievable experience. But when you start to look at me aging, etc.,
not so nice.
The line doesn't work anymore, I'm thinking, especially when I'm looking at myself in Zoom here.
Yeah.
I look like, it's possible that I did start the company, at 68 years ago. Right?
I wasn't going to say that, by the way.
I know, but I'm just, hey, I'm honest. I just say it like it is. But anyway, 3rd generation family business. And we're in the Greater Toronto area. We've been in Toronto from the beginning, and we're, technically a general commercial printer, but, again, we're always diversifying, looking at the latest and the greatest. You don't last for 68 years by staying the same. You've got to always reinvent yourself. And I guess that's what keeps life exciting in the world of print. Those that stand still don't survive. So, we're constantly looking at what we're doing and trying to reinvent ourselves, looking at what's relevant, keeping ourselves focused on the future and how we can best serve clients. And as we know, and it's interesting for me because, I grew up with the business, and growing up in a family business, my summer jobs were I'd go to camp for a summer for a period, and then I'd work. And then I went to a semestered school and graduated when we had grade 13 in Canada. And
okay, by the way, you just
how old I am for those Canadian viewers.
You just made yourself really old with that grade 13 line. I'm just saying.
I know. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, continue. Sorry.
I know there's many Canadian viewers that are saying, what's grade 13?
Exactly.
But I went to a semestered school. I graduated in January. And so then I worked from January until I went to university in September, and, fell in love with the business, grew up with it, etc. And so, that was my start, growing up with it, of course. And, when I got into the business, the competition and the cream of the crop and the companies that you wanted to emulate to be like, they're long gone. So I feel fortunate that at this stage, we're still around, we're still relevant, doing well, etc., which, is unbelievable. And, I've made a lot of good friends over the years, and unfortunately I've seen a lot go sideways, unfortunately. But, when you're in the business for a long time, I wasn't referring to you.
No, I was.
Oh, you were. Okay. I'm talking in the Toronto area. How's that?
Okay.
Yeah. But anyway, so listen, thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure to chat. We've got some good history between you and I over the years as well. Always trying to fight the industry causes and make print relevant, etc. So I always appreciate your input and working with you over the years as well. So it's a pleasure to speak with you, and thanks for having me.
Thank you, and thank you for those kind words. I think I'd like to think that there's a whole bunch of us that are still fighting for the industry, still loving it. It's changing rapidly. I like to say always, print is not going away. It's just different. I'd like to say to the print haters in our industry to get the hell out, because they're ruining it for the rest of us. I like to keep reminding people there's nothing wrong with making money in our industry and charging margin. I like to remind people that it's not a race to the bottom line anymore, right?
The race to zero.
All that being said, I actually happen to love print. I know you love print. I think it's pretty incredible. 3 generations. Not too many people could tell that story today.
Yeah, it's a story we're proud of. Again, and it's not just me. It's the team at Willow. You know, as you know, it's hard to achieve things on your own. You have to have a good team. You got to surround yourself with good people, etc. And I've been fortunate enough throughout my career, whether it's been through my industry charitable work, as you mentioned, PIA chair, and you know, I currently chair the Canadian Print Scholarship Trust Fund, and I've you know, again, attracting the brightest and the best to the industry, trying to show future generations how exciting print really is, and attracting the brightest and the best so that we do have a future. But you know, in saying that, with all of the volunteerism that I've done throughout my print career, I've met so many great people. And as you know, it's lonely at the top. When you're the owner of a company, even though you surround yourself with good people, it's good to have peers. And the print industry has always been good, for the most part, in banding together and sharing information. Maybe in some areas, not so much as others, but I've been fortunate enough in my charitable work to surround myself with some really, really good, smart people that I could learn from as well. And not only share ideas, but see how they think and learn a lot from them. So it's been a really great experience all
Oh,
through.
I'll play off of that, and I will, and I'll agree with you. I've been talking about it for months now. I know you were part of a peer groups. I was part of peer groups. My best learning in this industry has come from other people that are better and smarter than I am.
Right.
Now, I could talk to other people who could say that about me now. Why? Because I've made so many mistakes. I think I'm pretty smart,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I spend more money. I spend more money than tuition on 3 degrees learning about print and how it works, and equally as important, learning about people, because as you said, it is lonely at the top. But the truth is, when you're at the top, nobody below you really understands what you're dealing with sitting there.
Right.
So the more people
Yeah.
that you have that understand and participate, the better that it is.
Yeah.
How's business been? And I'm getting tired of the pandemic conversation, but the reality is it's still here. We thought we'd be in a better position by now. It seems like it's going to get a little worse before it gets a little better. I know Ontario's in some type of lockdown. I know we're
Yeah.
waiting to hear tonight, of which when the video plays, it will be 3 weeks ago. But we're waiting to hear tonight about another complete lockdown, possibly 4 weeks, because our cases are out of control.
Right.
How is it? How is it in Toronto, or how are you finding business?
Well, again, when we turn the clock back to when this all started in March, uh, the tap was turned off. Nobody knew what was going to happen. I had employees asking me, lockdown, what does that mean? How long is this going to be for, et cetera? And of course, we didn't have any answers. Do we have any more answers today? Probably not, but we all thought the worst at that point in time. But I think governments have done a pretty decent job stepping in and helping with programs. And you know, the stock market, of course, as we've seen, has rebounded. Right? You turn
By
around
the
and
way,
shake your head and say,
the
"What's
stock
that?"
market makes no sense.
Well, you know, again, it makes sense to the extent that people aren't worried so much about money when they're being given money, if they're furloughed, if they're not working. I think governments around the world, for the most part, and especially in North America, have been fairly good to keep the economy going by giving everybody some money that they could turn around and pump back into the economy. So, you know, obviously the stock market's rebounded. It makes no sense in some ways, and in other ways it makes some sense. And you know, in one way it makes sense is when you look at the situation and you know, and I'll take again the Canadian government. The Canadian government has been handing out all kinds of money, as the US government has, and they've refinanced their debt. So I think, you know, whether this is true or not, but I've been told by a few sources that they actually are financing greater debt for less cost because of interest rates.
Oh,
And
maybe.
so they're able, yeah, so they're actually able to pump this money into the economy, and people are out there spending. And as we know, spending helps the economy. And you know, they raise more taxes, they're selling more products, are being sold, they're collecting more taxes, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, but
So in the long run, that makes that helps the situation.
right. So does that mean your presses are running?
Yeah, I mean, again, so as I say, back to March. Yeah, thanks for keeping me on track. I appreciate it. I need it.
Oh, I need
I
it
need
too.
it.
I'm using
I
notes.
know. I know. This will be a 4-hour marathon for us just to introduce each other and say hello. That's the problem.
Yeah,
People have already been fed up. They're saying, "What are these guys talking about?
they've
Can you
already
guys
given
take
up
this
on us.
offline?" But no, so as I say, back in March, we didn't know what to expect. And of course, the first lockdown, we had to wait around. Are we essential? Are we not essential? And then, of course, we found out, yes, we are essential, and we were able to stay open. But a lot of customers were closed down. And so, March, half of March, April was quiet. Things started to pick up a little bit. We've been off all year until we hit August, which is usually a quiet month, and we surpassed 2019's August this year in 2020, since now we're in 2021.
Right.
And so it hasn't been terrible, but of course we're off. But are we fortunate and looking at the bright side of things and saying, back in March, we thought it was going to be a lot worse. So, I'm encouraged. I think a
Good.
lot of people are becoming screen fatigued. Zoom, they're zoomed out. As we know, when things come back to some sort of new normal, the world is going to be a different place. I think there's been a lot of positives and a lot of good technology and a lot of things that have been learned through this. So, I mean, if we keep positive and take the positives out of this and move them into the future with us, I think we're going to be in fairly good shape.
Yeah, no, you know what? I would agree with you. I mean, I'm actually enjoying Zoom. I'm enjoying Zoom more than a phone because at
Mm-hmm.
least I get to see your pretty face. If I say something stupid, I get to see you react, right? I'm as a professional salesperson, I'm really accustomed to the one-on-ones and seeing people's faces. I'm not used to. I mean, I'm adapting, but I'm not. I don't all the email, all the stuff. I still like to pick up the phone. I like to get on the phone. I like when I make a mistake for someone to scream at me. At least I know how they feel.
Yeah.
Right?
Well,
I don't know how
we've
people
known each other a long time. I won't hesitate. You don't need to see my reaction. I'll just tell you.
Right. I
Yeah.
mean, I remember email. I go back a few years. I remember my father saying to me, Warren, could you get me an email address? And I said, yeah, but Dad, you need a computer. Ah, forget it. I don't need an email address. And then
Right.
fast forward a few years, I remember getting an email from him one day, and the whole thing is in capital letters. And I'm start freaking out. I'm like, what the heck? What is he screaming about? What's he so uptight about? So I pick up the phone, I call him. I'm like, Dad, what's the problem? What are you screaming at me for? He goes, screaming. Who's screaming? I said, well, everything's in a capital letters. He goes, I can't see.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So perfect
That's the
example.
problem.
Written one way, read another, interpreted. It sends it all over the place.
Absolutely.
I'll tell you one thing that I've been enjoying. I'm trying to look at COVID as a reset.
Hmm.
I like to think that we're fortunate that we're not in a flood, we're not burning down, there's no earthquakes, there's no tornadoes. Yes, there's some people having it worse than others, but we're adjusting to that. But we're still all alive, and I think the business will come back. But I'm using this as a reset. I'm using it to reset myself from within and what I want to do and what I want to plan, because we all get to wipe the board clean now. And then in this COVID time of Zoom, and I've been getting to know people a lot better, even on
Sure.
Zoom. There's a VPress's Crown Pub every Thursday, 10:30 a.m., 3:30 in UK time. I've been on 50 Zoom since this started. I've got 30 new friends overseas. And what's really interesting about that is how we operate over on this side of the pond versus the other is different.
Sure.
So I think I'm learning some new things and techniques and ideas from them as they are from me. And I don't think that I would be having the same interaction if we didn't have the corona.
Right. Well, look, you are not wasting a good pandemic. You're
Right.
taking advantage of it. And as I say, there's always lessons to be learned, and there's always good out of bad. And I think if people had a better attitude towards things, they would look for the silver linings, and they'd see that we are fortunate in a lot of ways. I mean, we can look back throughout history and see really, really great periods in people's lives where they couldn't sleep at night. I think because of what I said earlier, governments keeping people with food on the table because they're some sort of, whether it's a wage subsidy, whether it's PPP in the US, hosts and hosts of different programs that are out there. People aren't that financially strapped. I think a lot of people are in better shape during the pandemic than prior to. And, that takes me to the point that those that were struggling going into it, once the tap shuts off from the government, that's going to cause a problem. And, it's causing some problems in the industry because those that are struggling and just want to keep presses running have this false sense that I'm getting some free money. Therefore, it's not costing me as much. And it's starting to erode pricing even worse than before in a lot of cases. Those bottom feeders seem to cut pricing because they have that subsidy or they have that government money and not looking at it as, trying to hold on to it and make things, they're not taking into account that it's not really lowering their cost.
You know what? I think our industry, there are a few known bottom feeders. I think it's unfortunate with this pandemic because it has caused a lot of other people to drop the pricing to keep things going out of fear. I'm a little concerned in 3 and 6 and 8 months from now because a lot of the companies, government helped, Canada, US, overseas, wherever, people are getting some money and chugging along and doing, but, I mentioned it a few weeks ago, if not months ago, companies that were into their line of credit going into this, I'm worried.
Mm-hmm.
If you weren't into your line, you have a better chance because you have your line as a safety net. Not that we ever like to use it, but that's what it's there for. And even where we are now, I'm talking to friends in business, and the subsidies change as your revenue from year to date to last year changes. Some programs end. One person I was talking to, because of the subsidies, he wasn't making money, but he wasn't losing money. And the minute some of his subsidies stopped, the bloodbath started. Right. All these restaurants, talking to a couple people who have plowed their life savings in 5 months ago to keep it going. It's getting harder. Right. So it's going to be, anyways, it'll get a little nerve wracking for everybody, I think, just to see what the final outcome will be. And then, even amongst us print companies or other print companies out there, it's the same thing. We don't know, or they don't know. Depends on the
it's
size.
tough. Look, and it's tough from a planning perspective because we really don't know. In all honesty, it's hard to plan when you don't know what the future holds. We don't know how long this is. Even with a vaccine with a vaccine at the end of the tunnel right now, we can see that. We don't know how long it's going to take to deploy the vaccinations, what the outcome's going to be, how long will we still be wearing masks. I think we're going to be wearing masks for a long time to come, even with the vaccine, because it's going to take some time for, we have new strains. Who really knows what lies ahead? The problem is you can't plan. It's hard to plan when you don't know what lies ahead. And I think, one lesson that I've always learned in business is to diversify. Don't have all your eggs in one basket. And I think that during the pandemic, those that had their eggs in, say, the basket of travel industry, found that as the travel industry got shut down, there was nowhere to turn for them because they went down with the travel industry. So, being diversified, not only with your product mix, but also with the type of customers that you deal with, different industries, kind of keeps you a little bit more balanced. It's like having a diversified portfolio in the market, right? And so we've been fortunate. We have some clients in travel that have gone from, stars to zero pretty much. And then we've got others that are in retail that are really busy because they're essential and they keep chugging along through all this and keep on rolling. So, again, you need to have that balance. So I think it's important lessons can be learned from this. And those that survive should take a deep look at what they've, how they manage their way through it and learn a lot from it and apply those lessons going forward.
You know what? I couldn't agree more. And really, because I think everybody forgets that what we are going through is really the first time ever something of this magnitude. And, we got a lot of couch quarterbacks who think the government should be doing certain things. I will tell you, as a guy who used to run a company, I would not want to be in government now, having to make some of these decisions that have to be made when you're trying to be in the middle and be fair to 360 degrees around you. It's just, you
Right.
can't please all the people all the time. I remember, we had 120 people and I couldn't please all the people. I wouldn't want to have 35 million people to try to please. But I
Right.
think at the end, we should all take this as a learning experience and hopefully use it to make us all a little better in how we are, how we act, how we treat people going forward.
Well, again, I think that people should have an appreciation for, we're human. We like that interaction amongst humans. Hiding behind a screen, yeah, it's convenient and it's making the best of the situation. It allows people to work from home safely, not putting themselves in harm's way. It allows you to keep in touch with customers, with family,
Right.
whoever. But I think, people, when the pandemic is over, I know hopefully people will value those human relationships better than they did previously. There's more loyalty. There's people appreciate their situation, and I think that that's also good for print, because I think people like to hold and touch things, and because of the screen fatigue, I think that lends itself well for the printed word. That people still want to get things, hold it, get it in the mail, feel it, touch it, etc. I think it's going to have more impact because people have been bombarded with online, etc., etc. So again, I think that that's a positive.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, even, it's been noted, even paperback books sales are on the way up, right? CS magazines are down, but there are still new titles coming out. Listen, I've always said it. I prefer to sit on the can with a magazine than an electronic device. It's safer,
Yeah,
right?
that's only because you're worried about electrocuting yourself.
That is correct. That
I
is
think so. I
correct.
think that's the real reason.
That is correct.
Yeah. Well, look,
So,
even younger generation. My son asked me if we got something in the mail that he was waiting for, and it was a prospectus from a company on the stock market, and he just wanted to have a quick look at it. I said, "I'm sure you can go online and see the PDF," and he said, "Nah, I prefer to look at the printed piece."
that's because he was born to a printer, but I like that.
No,
When-
again, for him, it's easier for him to digest when he can flip through it in front of him as opposed to
for everybody,
scrolling through pages. Yeah,
right?
I'm saying
Everybody.
so. Again, okay, maybe that's a bit pressure because he'd be fourth generation, but
Right. Maybe.
right? I
Just
think maybe
because,
he's
yes,
just hedging. He's a smart kid. He's just hedging his bets.
I was gonna
Is that what
say
you're saying?
he's playing
Yeah,
it
that's
right
what you.
until he decides.
Yeah,
That's
there you
cool.
go. He's just hedging his bets.
Cool.
Yeah,
Cool.
okay. Yeah, you're
Right.
right. I can't argue with you.
Huh?
I said I can't argue with you.
Yeah, no, for sure
He
not.
said he's born to a
I can't argue
printer,
with him
so
anyways.
that's it.
All right, we're gonna wrap this up. Me and you could talk all day and night.
We sure could.
Any last minute, anything you'd like to add before I cut you off?
Well, again, I appreciate being here. Hopefully people got some value out of our discussion. It's interesting because you said I'm sick of the pandemic, and that's pretty much all we talked about,
I know, it's
right?
great.
But again, it shows you the importance and the lessons learned that can be taken from a bad situation. Again, I think that the industry needs to band together. People have to look at the future and work together to get through and bring value back to print. It's not a race to zero, as you said. It's about value, and there's a lot of benefit, as we know, as printers, that we can bring to society in general. And again, you said print isn't going away. It's just changing. And as long as people are flexible, open-minded, and change along with the times and look for opportunities, I think the industry is going to be healthy for years to come.
All I could say to that is amen, brother.
All right.
That's a good one. All right, I'm going to wrap it up. Jeff, truly grateful for the time. Thank you. I know you're super busy at home in this pandemic, and time is of the essence for you. But thank you anyways. Stay safe, stay healthy, and more importantly, let me know if there's anything good, anything ever you want to talk about, because I'm happy to get back on a video with you and let the world know. And I thank you for your commitment to the entire industry for all these years, and for being a third generation printer. I think it's awesome.
Well, thank you. And like I always say, you get out what you put in. So I think I've gotten tenfold out for the amount of time that I put into the industry. So you know, as I say, it's been a pleasure. And I thank you again for taking the time and chatting. It's always a pleasure, and stay healthy, safe, and good riddance to 2020. And let's look forward to a much improved 2021.